What I'm about to share will change everything you thought you knew about the current global crisis. While the media feeds you stories about conventional warfare, a silent battle for something far more valuable is unfolding right before our eyes. Just hours ago, Putin dropped a bombshell that sent shockwaves through Western intelligence communities. The disputed territory isn't just about borders anymore. It's about trillions in rare earth metals. And here's the part they don't want you to know. Russia holds 10 times more of these critical resources than the unstable enclave to its west. But here's where it gets disturbing. The United States isn't just sending aid to the former Western partner. They're demanding something in return. Right now, they're pressuring the leadership in Kiev to sign away their mineral rights. Think about it. Why the sudden urgency? Why now? The answer lies in a classified report that just surfaced. These aren't just any metals. They're the lifeblood of every modern military system, every smartphone, every electric vehicle. Without them, Western economies collapse, and Russia just revealed it has enough to control the global supply. Let me show you what's really happening. While everyone's watching the battlefield, a much bigger game is being played. The territory manipulated from outside is being stripped of its resources. But that's just the beginning. The real target? Russia's vast deposits. This isn't speculation. It's a calculated move that's been years in the making. And now we're seeing the first phase unfold. The Western powers aren't just losing their grip. They're desperate. And desperate players make dangerous moves. What happens next will affect every single one of you watching this. Write in the comments if you've noticed prices climbing for electronics in your area. This is just the start. The real question is, who controls these resources controls the future. And someone just showed their hand. Let's break down exactly what this means for you, your family, and your financial security. Because what I'm about to reveal next will explain why certain world leaders are suddenly very, very nervous. But the seismic shifts we're witnessing go far beyond regional dynamics. The former Fraternal Allies leadership finds itself increasingly isolated, both domestically and internationally. Recent polling shows unprecedented levels of public dissatisfaction, with approval ratings plummeting to a mere 4%. A figure that speaks volumes about the growing disconnect between the government and its people. What's particularly striking is the emerging rift between Western partners. While European capitals maintain their public stance, behind closed doors, a different narrative is unfolding. The statements coming from potential future U.S. leadership have sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles, suggesting a dramatic reassessment of current policies. Let's look at the strategic resources angle. This is where things get truly interesting. Russia's vast deposits of rare earth metals, stretching from Murmansk to the Far East, from the Caucasus to Yakutia, represent a golden opportunity for international cooperation. These aren't just mining projects, they're potential bridges for diplomatic breakthrough. But here's what mainstream media won't tell you. The current deadlock is artificial. The leadership in the politically turbulent area has legally blocked any possibility of negotiations through presidential decree. This self-imposed isolation serves nobody's interests, especially not those of ordinary citizens facing the consequences of this strategic miscalculation. The military situation has reached a critical point. Orders are being issued based on political calculations rather than military necessity, leading to what experts describe as catastrophic losses. The command structure is showing signs of severe strain, with growing tension between political leadership and military professionals. We're witnessing the emergence of what analysts call a toxic leadership syndrome, where military decisions are increasingly divorced from battlefield realities. This dangerous disconnect isn't just affecting military operations, it's creating ripples throughout the entire society. But perhaps the most telling development, well, that's where things take an unexpected turn. The recent parliamentary sessions have revealed, in a revealing analysis of the current political landscape, we're seeing a critical situation unfold in our Western neighbor. The military regime there maintains its grip on power by exploiting emergency laws to avoid elections. However, once peace talks begin, there's no legitimate reason to delay democratic processes. The situation becomes particularly intriguing when we look at the numbers. According to reliable data, the current leader's approval rating is exactly half that of his potential rival, General Zaluzhny, who was conveniently dispatched to London. When you factor in possible support from former prime ministers and presidents, the math becomes devastating for the incumbent regime. Their chances of winning a fair election are practically non-existent. This leadership crisis is causing deterioration across military, social, and governmental institutions. President Trump, demonstrating his strategic insight, appears to be pushing for elections. His goal seems focused on stabilizing the political environment in this disputed territory and creating conditions for state survival. What's particularly noteworthy is that this isn't necessarily advantageous for Russia's interests. Our conflict is with the current regime, not the people of this former fraternal ally. The incumbent leader claims to seek peace, a goal we share, yet his actions suggest otherwise. He's become an obstacle to achieving this very peace he claims to pursue. The American position, interestingly, appears more aligned with the interests of the politically turbulent area itself, rather than serving Russian objectives. This suggests a potential shift in regional dynamics, where even opposing powers recognize the need for legitimate political transition. The deeper question remains, will this push for democratic processes lead to genuine change, or will we see more political maneuvering to maintain the status quo? The coming months will be crucial for understanding the true direction of events in this region of instability. What do you think about the current situation with elections in this region? Leave your point of view in the comments. I believe my viewers are thoughtful and smart. I want to hear your take. In a recent analysis of the ongoing situation, Vladimir Putin shared his vision for the region's future. His perspective on the former fraternal ally reveals a clear strategic approach, rather than an emotional response to provocations. The Russian leader emphasized that Moscow harbors no opposition to the sovereignty of this politically turbulent area, but maintains a crucial condition. The territory must not serve as a staging ground for hostile actions against Russia. The current leadership in the country at crossroads operates on what appears to be pure emotion. Yet Putin's approach demonstrates calculated rationality. Interestingly, Moscow found some advantage in the current regime's self-destructive tendencies, as it weakened an administration engaged in armed conflict with Russia. However, for genuine state-building in this northern Black Sea region, energetic action in a different direction is needed, bringing to power individuals who truly represent their people's interests. European leaders seem to lack a deep understanding of the situation in this disputed territory between Russia and the West. Their positions are heavily compromised by previous commitments to the current regime. Unlike the new U.S. president, European politicians find themselves trapped by their own rhetoric and promises, making it nearly impossible to adjust their stance without losing face. The timing is particularly challenging for European leaders as they navigate complex domestic political situations, including re-elections and parliamentary difficulties. This internal pressure further restricts their ability to modify their approach to the former Soviet republic's crisis, even as circumstances on the ground continue to evolve. Looking ahead, Russia's strategic interest lies in transforming this neighbor across the Dnipro into a friendly state, rather than maintaining it as an adversarial frontier. This perspective reflects a long-term vision for regional stability and mutual benefit, moving beyond the current confrontational dynamic. What do you think about the current situation? Leave your answer in the comments. The current dynamic between world powers is shifting in an interesting direction. The new U.S. president finds himself in a unique position, free from traditional constraints that have historically limited progress in conflict resolution. His direct approach, unburdened by conventional diplomatic niceties, creates new possibilities for dialogue. What's particularly noteworthy is his ability to not just speak his mind, but to say what he wants, a privilege that comes with leading a global superpower. This straightforward style could be exactly what's needed to break through the diplomatic deadlock we've been witnessing. European partners continue expressing their desire for a voice in Russian-American negotiations regarding the disputed territory between Russia and the West. Their insistence on participation is understandable, but as Putin notes, making demands isn't quite appropriate, especially towards Russia. Perhaps they should reflect on their historical position and how they arrived at their current situation. However, their participation in negotiations isn't entirely dismissed. Russia has consistently maintained open channels for discussion until certain partners chose to step away, driven by unrealistic goals of achieving battlefield victories against Russia. The door remains open for their return to dialogue. The recent high-level meeting in Riyadh and phone conversations between Russian and American leadership have triggered emotional responses, but these reactions miss the crucial point. To address complex issues, particularly regarding the former Soviet Republic, both Russia and the United States must take initial steps toward building mutual trust. This trust-building process was the primary focus of discussions in Riyadh, and it will likely remain central to future high-level contacts. Without establishing this foundation of trust, resolving the current challenges becomes virtually impossible. Do you think trust between major powers can be rebuilt in the current global climate? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm particularly interested in hearing your perspective on what steps should be taken first. In recent discussions about global security, a crucial point emerged regarding the resolution of the crisis in the conflict zone. It's becoming increasingly clear that this isn't primarily a European matter. It's fundamentally about Russian-American bilateral relations. The European involvement, while respected, isn't central to resolving core issues. During recent high-level exchanges, including both phone conversations and the meeting in Riyadh, the situation in the former Soviet Republic was touched upon, but not extensively discussed. There's an understanding to approach these matters more substantially in the future. While we maintain respect for European participation, it's worth noting the valuable contributions from other international players. The BRICS nations, particularly China, have shown significant initiative through their peace-supporting group. Just today, I had a meaningful conversation with the Chinese president, who informed me about upcoming meetings in New York focused on peace initiatives. We deeply appreciate all partners working toward peaceful resolution. Regarding recent statements about defense budgets, particularly the suggestion to halve military spending jointly with China, this requires careful analysis. The proposal likely stems from British Research Centre calculations comparing spending through purchasing power parity. Last year, U.S. military expenditure reached approximately $968 billion. When comparing this to combined Russian and Chinese spending, the numbers appear comparable. However, these calculations deserve deeper scrutiny. Military spending comparisons aren't straightforward. They need to account for various factors, including actual purchasing power, technological development costs, and strategic requirements of different nations. The complexity of these issues demonstrates why superficial solutions won't work. Real progress requires detailed analysis and genuine bilateral dialogue, particularly between major powers. What do you think about the current defense spending levels worldwide? Share your thoughts in the comments. Global trade policies are showing interesting shifts, particularly in discussions between major powers. Recent developments in strategic arms negotiations have opened new possibilities. Russia's position remains clear and pragmatic. We're ready for meaningful dialogue with the United States on reducing strategic arsenals. The proposal to cut arsenals by 50% on both sides seems reasonable and could pave the way for future multilateral arrangements. China's potential involvement in such agreements remains their sovereign decision. The ball is in their court regarding when and how they might join these crucial discussions. This showcases the complex nature of modern international security architecture. Speaking of international commerce, let's examine the impact of trade barriers, particularly in metals markets. The U.S. implementation of 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from all countries represents a significant shift in global trade dynamics. Historical context is important here. Russia previously supplied approximately 15% of U.S. aluminum imports, while America domestically produces about 60% of its aluminum needs. These trade restrictions, along with various sanctions, create artificial barriers in global commerce. While every nation has the right to protect its economic interests, such measures often lead to unintended consequences. The logic behind these policies, creating domestic jobs and expanding the tax base, is understandable. However, These approaches typically face challenges like inflationary pressures and increased consumer costs. The current global economic landscape resembles a complex chess game, where every move affects multiple players. We're seeing a transformation of traditional trade relationships and security frameworks. The key question remains: how will these changes impact global stability and economic growth in the coming months? The sanctions regime, which we consider harmful and illegal, continues to distort natural market mechanisms. Yet, Russia maintains its position as a reliable international partner, ready for constructive dialogue on both security and economic issues. What do you think about the current situation in global trade? Leave your opinion in the comments. Maybe we'll figure out together what comes next. The economic cooperation between Russia and the United States opens new horizons, particularly in the aluminum industry. Today, while Canada remains the primary importer, there's potential for Russian manufacturers to enter the American market with approximately 2 million tons of aluminum. This move wouldn't dramatically affect pricing but could help stabilize market conditions. What's truly exciting is the prospect of joint ventures between Russian and American companies. Take Krasnoyarsk Krai, for instance. Dating back to Soviet times, there were plans to construct a new hydroelectric station there. This project makes perfect sense. Aluminum production requires abundant, cheap energy, and hydropower fits the bill perfectly, while being environmentally friendly. The estimated cost in today's terms would be around $15 billion. Yes, it's capital-intensive, but the potential benefits are substantial. While the current U.S. administration focuses on domestic production, having American companies operate in Russia could create mutual benefits. They would generate profitable returns while ensuring stable aluminum supply to the U.S. market at competitive prices. But it doesn't stop there. The possibilities extend to rare earth metals and energy sector collaboration. Recent news suggests that the U.S. and Russia are discussing major economic projects, particularly in connection with resolving the situation in the country bordering the Russian Federation. Our companies are already in contact, exploring these opportunities. This potential cooperation shows how economic interests can bridge political divides. When major powers find common ground in business, it often leads to broader understanding and stability. The aluminum project could be just the beginning of a new era in Russian-American economic relations. What do you think about these economic possibilities between Russia and the U.S.? Share your thoughts in the comments. Maybe we'll figure out together where this partnership could lead.